Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Now in my hunt of tools to find kind of good budget tools, kind of two words that doesn't fit in the same sentence, I went to TEMU and like many other people, TEMU or whatever they call it, yeah, I was looking at some stuff, and I've earlier bought like a small, like cheap headlamp, a couple of headlamps from there. One of them were decent. The only problem was that the battery life was kind of lacking, and you can feel that on the weight of the product. That's for sure. I have found another headlamp that is way better. Runs on 18650 batteries, two of them actually, and has decent light output for what I'm doing, and the battery lasts a long time, which I really need. As said, the light output is way better than the other one I bought. So in the hunt for tools, I found something else which is pretty cool. Sorry about the light there. I recently ruined the engine on my 395. Yeah, that's something new for you there, and it's actually right here, right behind me here. Started disassembling it. We're actually dropping the engine on it. I do have another engine right over there from my old car, which is right here. My old car. I wrecked that car. But I of course took off the drivetrain because it was a very solid drivetrain. It has done me a lot of good stuff, that drivetrain, and that's kind of why I wanted to keep it with me and keep using it. So it's right here with its TD04 turbo and everything on it. Basically, it's kind of disassembled in such a way that you can just put everything in like it is. It's on the subframe and everything. And that's kind of the plan here. Because I'm gonna turn away this lamp because it's a bit blinding here. So I wanted to see what happened, because the story is, I was driving my car to work, like I've done many times to now, and it's been working just fine. And there's one thing that is a kind of an important bit to this story here. You remember, if you've seen my showcase video when I got the car, you remember that the car had a slight valve tick. Yep, it had a slight valve tick. I was suspecting the to be a clogged oil pickup. And I kind of filmed the video for that, but the video was not good enough. It was a lot of bad angles with film of my phone, and it wasn't decent enough quality. I know my video quality probably isn't the top tier on YouTube. I kind of want to do things raw here, well, for the time being anyways, until I get more editing skills. And well, the sump was clean. It was absolutely perfect. The engine was, I've never seen such a clean engine inside, well, such a clean 9.5 engine inside, especially a pre-04 engine, the 98-03. This one was very clean, like suspiciously clean. Like, why was it that clean? It looked like that the car has actually been rebuilt, or the engine has been rebuilt. And it got me thinking. Also, another thing, if you can see this timing mark on the chain here, it's still visible. Like, I can wipe it away. It's still yellow, you know? That's a clear sign that chain is not very old. This engine has been thoroughly gone through before and rebuilt from the ground up, because the bearings were also fine. So I was like, what is this? And I make the makeshift, like a oil pressure gauge install on the side of the head where normally the vacuum pump sits. There is a high pressure oil port there, and I took a banjo bolt, drilled a hole through it, stuffed a oil metering device in there, and this thing has like 60 psi volt pressure on idle, or well, cold idle that is. And when it got a little higher, it dropped to about 40 psi, which is very healthy, that's for sure. So the oil pressure wasn't an issue either. So I was like, what is this? And didn't think much about it. So I kept driving it. I suspected a collapsed lifter. And since the car worked just fine, you can drive it like normally, I kept driving it. And one day when I was driving to work, thankfully, 2 minutes away from the house, not even 2 minutes, 1 minute away from the house, I drove out from an intersection, shifted up to second gear and landed about 1000 RPM because it's a very, very slow speed in that area. And the engine suddenly said clack, boom, and ran on 3 cylinders. And was very hard to drive, and it was really, really smoky out the exhaust. Very smoky out the exhaust. And well, there was one of my TEMU lights. And I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what to expect here. So I parked the car for a good month, I guess, before I finally said to myself, you know what? I need to get this car down to the garage and I need to drop the engine on it. Before that, I wanted to find out what actually, well, not actually, I didn't before that, but in that time period, I actually ordered something from TEMU, and that's what I'm going to here, because I want to know what happened, because this car suddenly lost compression on 1 cylinder. You can hear it when you pull the key on the starter, there was 1 cylinder skipping, and that's a clear indication something had happened. And to me, it was a bit strange, because if it's smoking out the exhaust and making a clanking noise, it's probably a piston or something, you know. And yeah, I was really right. That is a piston. And the interesting part here is the piston didn't break from heat. It didn't break from hard driving or anything like that. These engines, the B205s, are actually pretty solid engines. You can run them reliably at around 280 horsepower if you have a good tune on it. They will run just fine. If you just take care of them, change the oil and everything like that, they run surprisingly well. My old car ran the 280 horsepower and 410 Newton meters or something like that. Basically, right at the edge of the ejectors, the stock brown injectors, I was basically maxing them out and running this stock T795 intercooler. Yep, I did that on 1.5 hour boost. Nice. That car has just fine. The engine is perfectly fine, doesn't burn a drop of oil, hasn't failed me once. It's even hydrolocked once and came right back to life. So very good engines. I have no doubt that those engines will last. If you just change your oil and run good fuel on them. If you live in a country that has poor fuel quality, probably skip up to a bit higher octane just to be safe. Here in Norway we have pretty decent quality on fuel because, well, we are an oil country, so of course. But of course we still have 2 different octane fuels. We have 95 and 98. And the 98 one is ethanol free, which is better to run on these non-ethanol cars. They will run slightly better on it. Of course my car was a biopower car, so I can refill with E85 if I wanted. Nevertheless, good engines. And I have never broken a piston on a Saab before. Never. Like, never broken a piston. Never. I have gotten rod knock from an old engine that I got. We had done a lot of kilometers, which use a lot of oil, like a lot of oil. And that's probably kind of my fault because I didn't check the oil regularly. So one of the English words that's pretty difficult for us Norwegians to pronounce: regularly. It's like that meme with I guess the Arab guy or something saying like literally or something like that. It's kind of a funny video, a funny meme actually. If you know that guy, he's a cool guy. And I know you. I know how you feel. But I bought a tool because I wanted to see what happened, and I found that cylinder 3. That was the culprit. So let's see if I can find the spark plug here on cylinder 3. Let's see here. Not that one. Not that. All the plugs actually looks pretty decent. They're really black, but they really look decent. They are the wrong plug though, so that's one other issue. Yeah, that's not supposed to look like that. That's pretty smashed right there. So let's turn around here and let's take a look at this engine here. So I have the valve cover off, and now you can see what I mean about how clean it is. I mean, look at this. Yeah, it has some brown spots here, and the oil is pretty nasty in here. Hold on, let me turn on the secondary light here. There you go. But overall, like some nastiness down here. It's very, very common that it actually gathers in this area. Not bad at all. But let me show you the stuff I picked from TEMU. Look at this thing. This is a Boroscope camera, or endoscope camera, or whatever you can call it. With a camera with a light on the end. So let's see if we can do this one-handed. Endoscope. Oh yeah. So let me stuff this down to. Can I do this one-handed? See here. Can I like put this here? There we go. Uh-oh. You see that? Yep. There's your piston ring, and if you keep going, well, that's your current crankshaft. Yep, that's what's through the spark plug hole. And also, if you could look at the piston, there is the indentations from a valve. And what I suspect has happened here, that valve tick I've heard, yeah, that is, that valve tick is, well, was, at least what I'm guessing, a loose locking pin or locking jigger that you stuff on the top of the valve on the top of the spring to keep it locked in. That I suspect it was a lock that wasn't engaged properly, and that basically the piston and the what do we call it, the hydraulic lifter and stuff like that has probably just slapped because of that loose jig in there, and it's made that knocking sound or that ticking sound. And over time, well, that thing fell. Fell off, and now we have this. The engine actually still starts. We tried to driving up the hill out of our house to get it towed, but it was very down on power, hardly no power in it. On idle, it ran no vacuum in the intake whatsoever. It basically ran atmospheric pressure in the intake, so when you gave it gas, it didn't get much more, you know. So there you go. That's what happened. That's what happened. And it's actually too bad because this engine was, as I said, very clean inside, looked very nice, and it was probably a good candidate to do something with. Well, not anymore. I'm guessing the cylinder walls are also completely shot. So this is probably just a completely trashed engine. The only bits to take from this. I'm kind of thinking here, what can you take from this? Camshafts? Nope, they start to have surface rust on them, so that's not going to work. You can probably polish them, you know, but you know. Crankshaft maybe? Turbo is probably fine. As long as no bits of valve and stuff has gone through the exhaust housing, of course. Hopefully it actually just smashed the valve in the piston and dropped everything down. I don't know if I will find a valve inside the engine, or if when I'm removing the head, if I can find something inside the head, like stuffed into the head. I don't know. I don't know. It used a lot of oil. The injector was still running, so you know, it filled up that cylinder with oil, with fuel. It's probably overfilled now. Actually not. Well, what does it smell like? Yeah, that is fuel. That's petrol right there. If I kept this engine running, that engine, it would probably clean itself up. So yeah, that's what happened, and yeah, this is going out, and that thing there is going in. Man, it's such a shame, you know. But that's how it is. Looks like that. My other TEMU lights finally down here. Haven't charged them like since I got them. So I just onto the camera light itself, which is actually stronger, but it's a bit of a wider color on it. So it, you know, you make it look like a ghost more than anything else. And these tires are not meant for winter, so we have to replace those. And also at the same time, you can see this runs on Bilstein's shocks and Eibach springs. And I believe those are B6 shocks or B8 shocks. But these here are B12 Pro Kit. The basic, I believe it's actually the best one you can get for the 9.5 from Bilstein. And I bought these I don't know, 3 years ago, and they have been just excellent. Surprisingly good shocks, really good. They actually held up really good, considering I'm driving in the summer and winter. And so I just kept them on, and I just simply stuffing everything back up like it is, as is. Not going to touch anything. Keeping the steering rack in here. I'm not disassembling the control arms, nothing like that. And that's simply to kind of not have to do so much alignment stuff afterwards. There's some stuff here that I, of course, need to do something with, because this car doesn't have xenons. But yeah. Yeah, this is going in. I have to do some. I have to fix this, replace the gaskets on the chain tensioner here, because that's bad. And also I have to replace the. Let's see here. I have to replace the old pressure switch, because you can see back here it's very, very wet, and that's been like that for a long time. And I just replaced it on that thing, so I could just, rip that out of that engine and replace it in gasket and put it back into this, and we are back running. One unfortunate thing with this setup here, one exhaust stud broke, and that has happened before on this thing. This exhaust housing is pretty much shot now, because this broke. This is broken before, so I drilled it and shoved the stud in it and welded it in the back. That is about to break as well. And turbo itself is pretty good. It's a short neck even, but I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to try to. I do have a 9000 TD04. I do not know where it is. It's in that box over. Yeah, it's in that box over there actually. And I was thinking about if I can mate the turbine or the compressor housing and clock it correctly from the T7 or T7 TD04s. You will actually get a better TD04 for your 9.5, because this exhaust housing on the 9000 is bigger. And that should, in theory, if I'm not mistaken, make it run better on the top end. The turbo is, of course, not that efficient anymore when you run a lot of boost on these TD04s. But if you can open up the exhaust housing a bit, I do suspect it will run better. I do also have another choice here. This here is a 19T TD04. It's actually the nice compressor wheel variant there. And of course that's an option, but I don't want to do much of remapping and stuff. So I can throw it on, but the car won't run 100% properly with this thing, because it will ruin the map. It will ruin the calibration of how everything is set up, because of the bigger size and also the bigger airflow from this turbo. It will probably run less boost, which is fine. I don't care about that. But the fact that it actually, I'm not sure yet, because it's a better turbo. And it lets me do much more, but I'm at the point where the TD04 is actually perfect for what the B205 engine can do stock without actually doing something with it. And there's no point throwing on such a big turbo on this car when the internals of the engine can't do much more than this. I can stuff in bigger injectors and probably turn off the boost or turn off the fueling a bit more and crank up the boost a bit, or remap as it's actually called. But I don't know if that's something I want to do, because then I will risk ruining the drivability and reliability of these 2 liters. I do have B204 internals, a full engine. I also do have a B234 engine, 2 of them actually, complete units, but I'm not sure yet. Right now I just simply need to get this thing into this car and get it on the road so I can drive it at least this winter. And for the summer we have the annual Saab meet in Norway, like for the Norwegian Turbo Club, or what do you call it? It's actually called Saab Turbo Club of Norway. And I want to bring this car, and maybe then, before that trip, we do something about an engine to it, because this car also needs a new engine, because this car was actually built this summer, and it's now bent the rod. So yeah, don't ask me how you bend the rod on a B235 engine. Usually they do, the rods keep up really well, but this thing, well, my friend managed to bend the rod. So that's a new record for what I've heard on these engines. They shatter pistons when they're stock, but this has the one of the forged pistons from, oh man, who makes those forged? I don't know. I can't remember the name right now on the forged pistons that's in this, but it does have forged B235 pistons in it. And what we are actually thinking here is it could be that since the rod has bent, it could have skirt damage to the piston because of the slightly wrong geometry of the rod now. The car actually starts and runs, no problems at all, but the rod has bent this way and twisted this way. So the rod has actually shaved away the engine block a bit on this to self-clearance itself. And now it runs, but you have about 20% lower compression on that cylinder with a bent rod. So it doesn't run properly. You cannot drive it like that at all. You cannot boost it. You can move the car, no problems at all, but you cannot boost it or drive it like hard or anything like that. So this thing also have a 19T turbo. It runs, well, it ran 630cc injectors, but we had a lot of issues with those, with fueling and well, injector scaling and stuff like that. A lot of problems, and that's kind of a issue with the 630 injectors in the Saab. They are very hard to tune because something about they're not consistent with one another. But yeah. Also, yeah, when we're here, since we're talking about my 9.5 here, I ripped out the old intercooler here because, well, that's a stock one, and I got myself the DO88 big pack, finally. So I now have the intake piping right there, and I got an intercooler. Oh, it's so exciting. This car will run so good. But thanks so much for watching, guys. And that's it for me here in the garage. Stay tuned for more content.